In today's episode, we are going to talk about Figma variables, and by the end of this video, you'll learn how to use variables in Figma like a pro. So what are variables? Variables allow you to save reusable values that can be applied to different design properties like fill, stroke, padding, margin, etc. But wait, isn't it the definition of styles? Well, not really. Although both styles and variables allow you to store reusable values, they have two fundamental differences. A style can be used for properties that are made up of multiple values, such as gradients or shadows. For instance, you can create a color style that has multiple fields. On the other hand, variables can store individual raw values like a hex color code or a string of text. The other difference is that a style can't reference another style, but a variable can reference another variable or even a style. And this is what makes variables so powerful. Why? Because we are now able to create design tokens. If you don't know what they are, don't worry, we are going to talk about them in this video. Alright, now that you know what variables are, let's start creating them. So here, as you can see, I already designed this product card, and it includes a product image, a title, a description, and this add to cart button, and also this price tag. And I designed this card using these colors. Okay, here as you can see, I have a blue color scale, a gray color scale, and also these two base colors. So here, if I select any of these elements, for example this button, as you can see, it's not using any color style or any variable. The same thing applies to these elements, these text layers here. So now let's see how you can create variables in Figma and how you can utilize them properly. First of all, make sure to not select anything. I'm just going to click somewhere here, and on the right side you can find this local variables section. I'm going to click on this icon, and here this window pops up. Here it allows me to create a collection. Basically, we can create different collections of variables. By default, this collection 1 is there. I'm going to go ahead and rename it now. I'm going to rename it to primitives. You can rename it to whatever you want, but I'm going to name it primitives. So now inside this collection, we can start creating our variables. I'm going to hit this create variable button. And as you can see, we can create 4 different types of variables: color, number, string, and boolean. Figma mentioned that they are going to add more variable types in the future, but at the moment we only have access to these 4 types. So here I'm going to click on color to create a color variable. Just like creating a color style, we are going to name it. I'm going to name it blue-50, and now I can assign a value to this variable. Okay, and the value should be a hex color code. So what I'm going to do is link this variable to this particular tint of blue. Now I'm going to click here, and using this eyedropper, I'm going to click on this color just like this. And now we just created our first variable, blue-50, with this particular value. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and create a specific variable for each shade and each tint of this blue. Okay, so what we can do is click on create variable and just click on color to create another color variable, or we can just duplicate this particular variable. To duplicate it, you can hit shift and enter. Sometimes it doesn't work, I'm sure it's a bug, but if you just create another collection here, I'm just going to quickly create another collection, and I just switch between these collections, and now if I hit shift and enter, it works perfectly. I'm going to hit shift and enter a few times, just like this, because I'm going to create many different variables. Of course, we don't need all these variables to design this card, but I'm just going to show you the process of creating variables for your projects. So here, I'm going to go ahead and quickly rename these variables. This second one is going to be 100. And I'm going to fast forward this process. All right, perfect. I created all these variables and I renamed them. Now I need to go ahead and just change their values, okay? We just need to select the second one, which is blue 100. And using this eyedropper, I'm going to click on this 100 shade like that. And I'm just going to continue doing that one by one. All right, great. Our variables are ready. Now I'm going to group these variables. How can you group variables? You can simply select this bottom one, hold down the shift key on your keyboard and click on this first one to select all these variables. Then just right click on one of them and just click on new group with selection, just like this. And as you can see, a new group has been created. Now I'm just going to double click on it and just rename it to color/blue. So we basically created a color category and then the blue subcategory underneath, just like this. As you can see, we have this color category, and then inside we have this blue category. Perfect. Now I'm just going to click on this all variables, and we just need to create different variables for this gray color scale as well. So basically we need to repeat the same process. I'm going to click on create variable, just like this, and I'm going to call it gray 50, hit enter, and just change its value to gray 50. And now you know what to do. We just need to duplicate this variable multiple times, rename them, and just change their values. So I'm going to hit shift and enter, just like this, a few times. Okay, perfect. Now let me quickly rename them. Great. Now let's change their values. I'm going to go ahead and change their values one by one, and I'm going to fast forward this process. All right, it's done. Now we need to create another group, so I'm just going to hold down the shift key on my keyboard and just select these gray variables. Right click on one of them, click on new group with selection, and here I'm going to type color / gray, just like this. And now as you can see, we have two subcategories under this color category, but we are not done yet. We need to create two base colors as well. So let's select this all variables, and I'm just going to create another color variable. And this one is going to be white, and the value should be intact. Now I'm going to create another variable, and I'm going to call it black, and I'm going to change it to this color, just like this. Now let's select them both, put them inside a group, and I'm going to rename this to color / base. Just like this. So we just created our color variables. We created the blue variables, the gray variables, and the base variables. Now let's go ahead and create another type of variable, a number variable. So I'm going to click on all variables, and here let's click on create variable, and I'm just going to click on number, and now I'm going to create my spacing variables. So here for the first one, I'm going to call it 0, and the value is going to be 0. Now I'm going to duplicate it, hit shift and enter, and let's duplicate it a few more times, like that. For the second one, I'm going to name it 1. I'm going to name this one 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. I'm not going to go ahead and create variables for all the numbers we need for a project, but you got the idea, right? So for this variable, I'm going to change the value to 4, assuming that we are using a 4-point grid system. For the second one, I'm going to set it to 8. For the third one, I'm going to set it to 12. The next one is going to be 16. The next one is going to be 20. And the next one is going to be 24. Now let's select these number variables and just group them just like this. And this time I'm going to call it spacing. Okay, perfect. So we created our color variables and our spacing variables. And now you might say that, all right, now it's time to apply them to our design, right? Not really, because basically when we create these variables under this primitives collection, we are not going to use them directly. So we are not going to select this button, for instance, and just try to apply one of our variables to this button. Why? Because if we do that, it's just like using a color style. So what's the difference between variables and color styles? There should be a reason for using variables, right? And you're going to find out what the reason is. So here I'm going to click on local variables. And what we need to do now is create another collection. So now we are going to create another collection. I already did that. I'm going to rename this to tokens. So now we basically need to tokenize our variables. But what's a token? A design token is a simple reusable design decision that represents a design attribute or style such as colors, spacing, text, etc. So let me show you how to create your design tokens now. Under this collection, we are going to create another variable, again a color variable, but this time we are going to name it differently, okay? So here I'm going to type surface primary. So this is going to be the color that we are going to use for the primary surface. In this case, it's going to be the background of this card, okay? And now you might say that, all right, we need to set the value to white. So we need to leave it as is, but that's not true. Remember when I mentioned variables can reference another variable? Well, let me show you how it works. So here, instead of using a hard-coded value like this hex color code, we are going to make this variable reference another variable, one of the variables that we already created. To do that, you can just click here and go to libraries. And here, as you can see, we have all the variables we already created. We have primitives, color blue, color gray, and base colors. Okay, for the surface primary, I know that it should be white, so I can just link it to this color base white, just like this. And now this variable, this surface primary variable, is tied to this variable that we already created, and it's called an alias. When a variable references another variable, we call it an alias. Here, if I go ahead and detach it, I'm going to show you another way of creating an alias. You can just right click here and just click on create alias, just like this, and then you can just click on white here. All right, cool. So now let's go ahead and create another variable here. I'm going to create another color variable, and this time I'm going to name it button background primary. So for the button background primary variable, I'm going to change the value to this particular shade of blue. Okay, it's going to be blue 600. So what I'm going to do is just link it to blue 600. Just like that. And now it's referencing this particular variable that we already created. Now let's create another color variable. I'm going to name it button label primary. Our button label should be white. So again, I'm going to assign it to color base white. So let's go to libraries, and from here, I'm going to assign it to color base white. And now, as you can see, we have two variables that are referencing the same variable. And that's why design tokens are so powerful. You cannot do that using color styles. Okay, now let's go ahead and create another color variable. I'm going to call it text primary, and I'm going to set its value to gray 950. This one, the darkest shade of gray that we have here. And now we need one more color variable, and it's going to be named text secondary. And the color is going to be gray 500. I'm going to assign it to gray 500, just like this. And now we just created all the design tokens we need for this card. Of course, for a complete project, you may need to create many variables here. But for this card, we don't need more than that. Okay, now let's go ahead and select them all. And I'm going to create a group, and I'm going to rename it to color. Perfect. What else do we need? Before we go ahead and apply these design tokens to our card, we need to create our spacing system as well. So here, I'm going to click on all variables. I'm going to click on create variable, and this time we need a number variable. And here I'm going to name it spacing none. And as for the value, I'm going to click on this little icon, and from the library, I'm going to set it to 0. This is one of the variables that we already created. Next, let's go ahead and create another variable. This time it's going to be spacing XXS, and I'm going to change its value to 1. I'm going to create another variable. This one is going to be spacing XS, and let's change its value to another variable, which is going to be this one, number 2. I'm going to create a few more variables here. This one is going to be spacing small, like that. Let's assign it to spacing 3. Let's create a few more. This one is going to be spacing medium, and it's going to be assigned to spacing 4. The next one is going to be spacing large, and it's going to be assigned to spacing 5. Of course, you don't need to use these values linearly. You can just skip one value. For example, you can assign this spacing large to this particular variable. But for this project, I'm just going to keep it as is. I'm going to create one more variable, and I'm going to name it spacing x large, like that. And let's assign it to number 6. Now let's select them all, group them, and just call it spacing system. And now our design tokens are ready. Now we can go ahead and apply these design tokens to this card. Let's see how it works. Here, I'm going to select this card frame. As you can see, it's an auto layout frame. And I'm going to go ahead and link all its properties like fill, corner radius, etc. to our design tokens. So here, while this card is selected, I'm going to head over to the field section, and I'm going to click on this little icon, and from here you can find all the variables you created, but make sure not to use your primitives, okay? You need to use your design tokens. So here under tokens, I'm going to click on surface primary, and now the background color of this card is tied to this particular design token, color surface primary. Now let's go ahead and select this text, and I'm just going to repeat the same thing. This time I'm going to link it to text primary. For this one as well, I'm going to link it to text primary. Here I created two different text layers. As you can see, we have the location and we have this available in label. I'm going to show you why in a few minutes, because I'm going to show you another feature of variables. Okay, but for now, I'm just going to select it, and I'm just going to link it to text secondary. This one should be linked to text primary, like this. The price tag also should be linked to text primary. We already did that. Now let's select our button, and we just need to link its field to button background primary. And also we need to select its label and just link it to button label primary. But we are not done yet because we just linked our colors to our design tokens, but we didn't use any of our spacing tokens. So let's go ahead and use them now. Here for the corner radius, I'm not going to use any tokens at the moment because we are going to create another set of tokens for the corner radius value. But what we can do is select this card. And if we head over to the auto layout panel here, we can click on this little icon. And from here, I'm going to head over to tokens. And here you can find all the spacing tokens. So as for the padding, I'm going to set it to spacing medium. And this one should be set to spacing medium. Now I'm going to select this content frame inside. And we just need to open up this drop down menu and just click on apply variable. And from here, I'm going to choose number 3, this one. Then I'm going to select this button and let's apply variables here as well. I'm going to select number 6, and for this one should be number 3. And then we can select our content, and inside, as you can see, we have another auto layout frame. Here we can apply our variable as well, this one. And inside this content frame, we have another frame. We have 2 other frames. I'm going to select this one. This one is set to auto, and this one is set to 4. So we just need to apply our variable here to 4. Perfect. But what about the corner radius values? So let's go ahead and quickly create a few radius tokens as well. Here I'm going to click on spacing system because we are going to create these variables under the spacing system category. And let's call it radius small. And the value could be 8. So I'm going to assign it to number 2. And I'm going to create another variable like this. Let's call it radius medium. And this one is going to be 12 pixels. So I'm going to set it to number 3. And let's create one more, radius large. And I'm going to assign it to number 4, which is 16 pixels. All right, great. So now we can select our card. And here, as you can see, the corner radius is set to 12. I'm going to click on this little icon, and under the design tokens here, I'm going to set it to radius medium like this. Next, I'm going to select this image and just set it to radius small. And also I'm going to select my button and just change it to radius small. All right, great. So we linked all these properties, the field property, the auto layout padding property, and also the corner radius property to our design tokens. Now let me show you why we went through this boring process, okay? So imagine you want to change the color of this button. What you can do now is head over to your design tokens, and here the only thing you need to change is the value of this particular variable, button background primary. Okay, let's suppose you want to use a darker shade. What you can do is click on it and just change it to blue 700. But you might say, Arash, we could do the exact same thing using color styles. Yes, you could do that, but there is a huge difference between tokens and color styles, basically between variables and color styles. So here, as you can see, we can give these variables semantic names, and you can quickly understand what this variable is all about. But that's not the case with color styles. So let's suppose you want to change the background color here. If you used color styles, you had 2 different choices. Number 1, you could just go ahead and change your color style. However, that way, this button label would be affected as well. And that's not what you want because you just want to change your background color. Number 2 is you need to go ahead and select this card and just change its style here. And imagine you want to make changes to multiple different elements. You need to go ahead and modify them one by one. But when you use design tokens, you can easily change the value of your design tokens. For instance, if you want to change this label color, you can simply head over to this button label primary and just change it to something else. You can change it to black, for instance, if you want. Okay, I'm going to set it back to white. But let's suppose you want to change your entire color palette. In that case, you can head over to your primitives and just change all these colors. So let's say you are not satisfied with this shade of blue here, okay, and you want to darken it, for instance. if you just head over to primitives and from here you adjust this particular variable, you can just click right here and just modify it easily. But what about the spacing system? Let's suppose for some reason you decided that your corner radius values should be increased. So here, let's say your smallest corner radius value should be 12 instead of 8. So what you can do is just change this value to number 3. So now it's referencing this particular variable, which is 12 pixels, and the next one should be number 4. And as soon as I change that, as you can see, the corner radius value here has been increased. All right, that's how you can create variables and design tokens. Before we move on to the next topic, I'm going to show you something very important here. Okay, and that's the scope of your variables. So here, if I head over to spacing system, as you can see, we created these 3 radius variables, and we know that these 3 variables should be reserved for the corner radius value. However, it doesn't work like that at the moment. If I just go ahead and select this frame here, and I just click on this little icon, under the spacing system, as you can see, I can set this value to radius small as well. But that's not what I want. It shouldn't be available for these values. It should be reserved for the corner radius value, okay? So how can we make that happen? Well, it's quite simple. I'm going to head over to the tokens collection, and from here, I'm going to select this variable, and as you can see, this icon appears here. It says edit variable. If I just click on it, this window pops up, and here we have a section called number scoping. It basically shows you all the properties that could be linked to this variable, this particular variable. And as you can see now, it says corner radius, width and height, gap, and text content. That's not what we want. We just need to uncheck these checkboxes. This one, but this one should be checked. We need to repeat the same thing for this variable. I'm going to make sure that this one is checked, and uncheck the others, and this one as well. I'm going to check this one. And now, if I select this frame, and if I try to head over to my library, as you can see now, those values are gone. The same thing applies to color variables. So here, if I just select any of these color variables, like this one, you can see that you can apply it to frame, to shape, to text, to stroke. If you want to reserve it for the field property, you can just uncheck this checkbox, for instance. All right, now that you learned how to create variables, how to tokenize your variables, it's time to take your design to the next level. I'm going to show you how you can create different modes for your variable collections. This feature is only available to paid users, so if you don't have a paid account, you cannot use that, unfortunately, but it's good to learn that in case in the future you want to use a paid account, you know how to create different modes. So let's say we want to create a light mode and a dark mode for this card. How can we do that? It's quite simple. Here I'm going to head over to the tokens collection. We can do it in the primitives as well, depending on our needs, but I'm going to do it here in this tokens collection. As you can see here, we have this plus icon. If I click on it, now it says mode 1 and mode 2. Basically, Figma selects this first column as the default mode of this particular collection, but you can always change that. I'm going to rename it to light, and this one should be dark. Okay, so what we need to do now is change the values of this second column. Okay, so for the dark version, I'm going to change this value, surface primary, to black. Okay, so the background of this card should be changed to black. Then as for the button background primary, I'm going to change this color. We usually make it lighter on dark mode. So I'm going to change it to 300. And by the way, we need to change it back to 600. As for the label, I'm going to change it to black, like that. The text primary color should be gray 50, something light because our background is dark. So I'm going to change it to gray 50. And the text secondary is going to be gray 500, so I'm not going to change that. Okay, so now let's see how this works. Here, if I select this card frame, since we created another mode, if I head over to the layer section here, this icon appears. Okay, I can just open it up. And here under tokens, as you can see, it's set to auto. Okay, so the mode is automatically set to light, which is the first column of our collection, our variable collection. I can change it to dark, and there we go. Here is our dark mode. Let me go ahead and create another frame next to it, just like this. And I'm going to place it inside. so you can easily see the difference. And I'm going to change the background of this frame 1 to something else. I'm going to use one of my primitives here, maybe gray 50 or gray 100, this one. And now if I select this card, I can easily change its mode. I'm going to change it back to light, and you can just change it back to dark. It's quite cool, isn't it? But I'm going to show you one more thing here. I'm going to set it back to auto. And here, if I select this frame 1, which is the parent of this card, I can change the mode of its parent, and the mode of this card will be changed as well. So I'm going to select this frame 1, and from here, I'm going to change it to dark. And now, as you can see, the mode of this frame 1 has been changed, but the elements inside are also affected. Now let me show you something else, okay? So here I'm going to name this frame dark. I'm going to duplicate it, hit Ctrl D or Command D. Let's put it here. I'm just going to rename it to light, and now I can just change it to light. Okay, if I just get rid of this card, I can simply select this card, and if I bring it over here, look what happens. You see that? It automatically changes its mode. Why? Because we changed its parent mode, which is this main frame. And if I select this card, its mode is set to auto. All right, great. Now let's take it to the next level. I'm going to show you how you can localize your elements, okay? So basically what we need to do is create another collection here. I'm going to go ahead and create another collection, and I'm just going to rename it to text. And here I'm going to create a string variable. I'm going to name it product name, and the value is going to be lemon. So I'm just going to change it here to lemon. What else should be translated? This label, available in, I'm just going to copy it. And here I'm going to create another string variable. I'm going to paste it here, available in. For this first column, I'm going to set it to available in. So we just need to use the exact same values. The location shouldn't be translated. I'm just going to create another string variable. Let's call it price. And the value is going to be 2.99. And we need one more variable for this button label. I'm just going to copy it and just create another string variable, paste it here and here. Okay, so let me show you what's going on here. Basically, I'm going to create two different modes for this collection, the English version and the German version. Basically, the English mode and the German mode. So I'm going to hit this plus button, and now we have two different modes. I'm going to rename this first one to English, like this, and the second one to German. Now what we need to do is translate these values to German. I already did that, so I'm just going to copy and paste the values quickly. There it is. I hope they are correct. And now let's go ahead and link these text layers to our variables. Okay, so I'm going to select the product name. I'm going to head over to the text section, and from here I'm going to click on this icon, and under the text category I'm going to choose product name. Then I'm going to select this price tag. Again, I'm going to link it to price. Then let's select this label. That's why I created two different text layers, because I wanted to show you this feature as well. And I'm going to link it to available in. And finally, I'm going to select this button label and just link it to add to cart, just like that. Now let's see how it works. Here, I'm going to select the main frame, the parent frame. And if I head over to the layer section and I click on this icon, now here we have another collection, the text collection, and by default it's set to auto. And here we have English and German. I'm going to click on German now, and there it is, as simple as that. Here is our German version. You want to change it to dark mode? You can do that easily. You can simply change it to dark, and your card is ready. Before we wrap up this video, I'm going to show you one more thing. If you're working on a project and you already created hundreds of different color styles and you just don't want to go ahead and manually create all these primitive variables, I have good news for you. There is a plugin that you can use. If you just look for styles to variable, there it is, this one. You can just run this plugin and it will automatically create variables for you based on your color styles. So it converts all your color styles to variables in seconds. And that's amazing, isn't it? The other thing I'd like to point out here is that you can link a color style to a variable. How? Let me show you how. I'm going to quickly create a color style. I'm just gonna select this one, for instance. And from here, I'm gonna create a color style. I'm gonna name it base black, and I'm gonna hit create style. So as you can see here, I have this black color style. Now, if I just click on this icon, from here, I can head over to libraries and I can just link this color style to one of the variables we created, okay? And it's gonna be color base black, just like that. So you can still keep using color styles if you want, and you can just link your color styles to variables. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more design tutorials. Have a great day and see you soon.